Good evening. I'm Selwyn Collins, your host of CWS Conversations with Selwyn. Thank you for joining us this evening. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, a very special thank you. I can't stress enough how important it is, or how very grateful I am for you tuning in to listen to me every week, but not so much me, but my guests and the conversations that we have, because I believe that each and every one of us has a story, and stories that must be told, especially if these stories can inspire, inform, enlighten, and encourage others. Tonight, we have a very special guest, which I'll introduce to you after I take the break. But one of the things I want to talk about before I take this break is the importance of obedience and the importance of listening to those who have gone before you. Listening to those, I'm not saying that if someone is disagreeable that you have to listen to them, but I believe that our elders take a very special position in our lives, and it is very important for us to listen to them. The series of events, or the sequence of events that took place, so that my guest tonight, Miss Doris Harper-Wills, to come on this show is very interesting. As some of you will know, Clive Lloyd was on the show last week, Wednesday, and I was called by a very good friend of mine who I happen to have a lot of respect for several days ago, Valence Williams. And he mentioned to me that he was really impressed that Clive Lloyd mentioned Fred Wills in his monologue, and spoke of how much he would like to, before he dies, to create a scholarship in Fred Wills' name. And Valence asked me to contact Fred Wills' daughter, and to post the recording of the show on Fred Wills' page. Now, I never even knew there was a page for Fred Wills. And some of you who are probably hearing his name for the first time understand that this is a man that, as a child, or as children, many of us look up to because of his brilliance, because of his astuteness, because of the contribution that he has made to our society. And so I was excited. And then one thing that to another, and the daughter recommended her mother come on the show. And I can't tell you enough, having a conversation with Doris Harper-Wills. And I want to state something here before I continue the show, that I was given consent. I was asked to refer to her as Doris. And I'm saying this because I don't know if my mother is listening. I don't know how many of our elders are listening, because I grew up in a place where you have to show respect by addressing someone that is older than you in a proper way. So if you hear me tonight say Doris, no, it is because I was given consent to do so. Anyway, I want to thank Valence Williams very much for this. And I want to thank her lovely daughter, an attorney here in America, Leah Wills, very much for this. So I'll take a break, and when I return, I will introduce you to Miss Doris Harper-Wills. We're back. The lovely lady on the other side of the screen is Miss Doris Harper-Wills. Doris, good evening. Hold on a second. Hold on.
Ooh,
Sorry, your mic was mute. Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Selwyn.
Wonderful, wonderful. I want to say a very special thank you for coming on CWS tonight and where you are this morning. So I'm even more grateful that you will make such a sacrifice to be on CWS and share your journey with us tonight.
Thank you, Selwyn. I would like to thank you indeed. And I would like to thank all my friends and family who I guess some of whom are looking tonight. I would like to say thank you. Thank you, life.
You're quite well.
And
You're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. I want to start with just a bit of your bio. One of the things I realized in the past few days when I was reading some of the emails you've sent to me with your accomplishments and so on, and some of my research, I realized that maybe an hour and a half is not enough to do you justice. But what I did, I tried my best to consolidate and put them together um, in one spot and also during in the questions, interspersed in the question. Because what I hope happens here tonight is that by the end of this conversation, our audience will have a more three-dimensional perspective of who you are. Because your journey, from what I've seen, is so rich. So I will start off by saying Doris Harper-Wills has been successful in films, TV, radio, and on stage for decades. She was born in 1931 in the village of Agricola, Guyana, where she was educated at Agricola Methodist School, Trinity Methodist School, and Bishop's High School. In England, she attended Rose Bruford School of Speech and Drama, and I see here in parentheses Sidcup, Kent, Avery Hill College of Education, Bexley, and Laban Art of Movement Studios, where she studied English, drama, and educational dance. Her world stage included stops at venues like Trafalgar Square, Covent Garden, Lincoln Center, the Harlem Dance Theater, Billie Holiday Theater, New York Correctional Facility, Farnham Castle, Nottingham Museum, and in places like New York, Canada, London, Zimbabwe. Doris Harper-Wills features in the Black Archives touring exhibition as a guiding light focused on teaching the history and culture of the Caribbean diaspora through her art forms. Welcome, Ms. Doris Harper-Wills. Please allow me to congratulate you on your outstanding and highly decorated career. Thank you for all that you have done and are doing to protect the freedoms we enjoy. Before I continue, I want to just reiterate that I was given permission to say Doris because I know I'm going to get some flack tomorrow. Anyway, thank you again. Doris, your commendations include the Ambassador for Peace London 2004, the Top Teller Prize awarded to her by the Yukon Arts Council in 1997, the International Women's Year Award for her contribution to civic life in New York, 1974, the National History and Arts Council First Prize for Short Story, Guyana, 1967, Commonwealth Bursary Award, 1967, the first prize at the Festival of Spoken English held at Avery Hill College, 1968, and the National History and Arts Council First Prize for Poetry, Guyana, 1963. Behind all of the accomplishments, awards, honors, and titles, who is the behind-the-scenes Doris Harper-Wills?
I am really overwhelmed, Selwyn. You have been doing a lot of research. Wow. What was the question?
It was an honor.
I think you asked me a question.
Yes, I ask you, behind all of this, all the accomplishments and the awards and honors, who is Who is Doris Harper-Wills behind the scenes?
I'm just a childlike person
Hmm.
that likes to write about legends and history as well. I'm fascinated. I'm really fascinated with the history of the people who came to the Caribbean
Hmm.
and the world in general, but particularly the history of the people who came to the Caribbean. And I try to introduce this history to children who have been coming to my classroom at the Commonwealth Institute. I've been there for 15 years, and I also go out to different parts of the country on request. And I always like to teach children in a very simple way with repetitive language and music and dance about the history. Where did we come from? Who are her ancestors? If we do not know where we came from, how would we know where we're going?
Wonderful. What is your favorite memory of your parents while you were growing up in Guyana?
My favorite memory of my father, who was headmaster at Agricola, where Jan Peru, the famous writer, attended. My favorite memory, my treasured memory of my dad was at the end of term, he would balance a school child on top of a bench on his seat.
Hmm.
Would you believe it? That's one memory of my father. The other memory is that he always made sure we dotted our I's and crossed our T's. He always made sure that we spoke properly. So much so when I went to Trinity School, they used to call me English Duck. That's my memory of my dad. And another thing I remember about him is his love of music. My dad could transpose music. Dorothy Page used to drive all the way up the East Bank to Agricola Village to collect him so he could go transpose music, especially when Rudolph Dunbar visited the country. Do you remember Rudolph Dunbar? The famous conductor,
Yes, I heard about him.
Berlin, etc. That is my memory of my father. He was a very peaceful man, very, very peaceful and calm and serene.
I,
And who is the other person you want me to talk about? My mom?
your mom.
She was an excellent dressmaker. She was, but there were very many good dressmakers in Guyana. You know, when you buy dresses here, under the arm is always a bit tight and, you know, not quite, you can't move easily. But my mother really knew how to cut. And she was also a politician. Shall I tell you a secret? She really wooed my husband to me. She liked politics, and she discussed politics with my husband, who was courting me at that time when I was a teenager.
Wow.
He loved to argue
I,
and
I,
discuss.
I can see now. I can see now why you have such a rich path. A father who was a lovely man who was calm. I can understand your calmness and the way you approach things. Your mom who was an excellent dressmaker, and I guess that speaks to your your sense of
My
style.
great costume collection. I've got fantastic costumes. I love clothes and costume textiles. That's why my first daughter,
Hmm.
eldest daughter Leslie, she's a textile designer. I think she may have inherited that gene from my mom.
Wow. Born in 1931 in Agricola, what was it like growing up in Guyana before independence? And how would you compare your life then to your life post independence, especially in the late 60s and early 70s?
In the 30s and 40s, I spent time between Agricola and Wakanam in the Essequibo, the island of Wakanam.
Hmm.
And It was lovely. We celebrated, because my father was a headmaster, we used to get all the gifts from Indians, all the sweets during Diwali,
Mm-hmm.
and we played Pagua well, and we celebrated every festival. And that informed me for my adult teaching life at the Commonwealth Institute, because I was the festival organizer there, and people couldn't understand how I could write a play about Ram and Sita, write a, celebrate the Chinese New Year, and just be generally a good multiculturalist, because most Guyanese are anyway, aren't we?
Yes, I agree. I totally agree. We are fortunate.
And you notice in my music, I've got the Tasa drum and the Taja drum in my music. We love Guyana. I've got that.
And your first poem was published at the age of 9 in the We Wisdom. You know, and I forgot about We Wisdom until I saw that in the email you sent me. An international magazine produced by Unity School of Christianity, USA. How did that feel to you as a child when that was published?
I I don't know. I was a dreamer. I was always in walking around wandering on my own, like a lonely cloud. And I think to this day I've got that tendency. And I'm not quite astonished when don't expect to win a prize, but it seems to me, and I don't expect to be published, but it seems to me that those formative years in Walkenham, by the riverside, walking 5:30 in the morning, watching people pelting crappos, you know, watching for the a certain star to come out in the night, waiting for a certain lily that only blooms every 5 years, sitting on the veranda with my aunt. That's beautiful. That was the sort of life we lived. And up in MacDo village, every Friday night we had family concerts. And at that family concert, my brother played the piano and I made my song. Like, hello everybody, yay boy. Hello everybody, yay man. Hello everybody, yay man. I'm so glad we belong. That was my very first song at her family concert.
Wow.
And since then, I'm still making songs. We use combs and tissue paper for musical instruments.
Hmm.
We had a piano. I think almost every house had a piano, and concertina, harmonica, and violin.
Wow.
That's our childhood life. No pocket piece. If he said a beautiful word or a new word, my father wrote it up on the wall.
So where did your first love affair with music start?
My first love affair with who?
With music. When did it start?
It started in a regular village on the piano.
Mm-hmm.
It started with my father. He was always playing the violin, the harmonic, not the harmonica, the harmonium. My eldest sister used to play duet. And my brother was up at 5 practicing scales and arpeggios. He played with, was it washboard? He used to go into the villages and play with the bands, you know, those swing bands. What do you
Yes.
call them? My brother Dougie. So he's about 84 now. He came over recently to my book party from Sweden, and he has his own band, jazz band, but he's still a professor emeritus
Wow.
with English school.
You know,
So
you
he's versed in classical music. He's an accomplished classical musician, but he plays jazz because that's what he makes
Oh.
money.
and you are a performance poet, writer, dancer, dramatic, and a choreographer. What is your earliest memory of your creative expressions?
My memory of
Your creative
being,
expressions, like,
my, ear, my earliest memory of being, apart from our sitting room concert,
right.
and apart from performing for Leonard Dalton and Edmund de Weaver in sitting room piano, those sitting room piano concerts, taking exams and whatnot. I never took those seriously because my brother he was the maestro. And, well, I never took that seriously. But my first experience as a choreographer was when Beryl McBurney came to Guyana and insisted that I should work with her and that I should perform for the Guyana Independence Celebration. That is my first experience.
What was that like? Tell us.
Well, I I have been described by a friend of mine, a famous poet. I have been described as someone who is unconscious. I was unconscious. I was not fully aware of who I was because we were brought up to not to be aware. Just kind of suppress
Yes.
anything, don't show off sort of thing. But Beryl hunted me because I wasn't even interested in what she wanted me to do. But she saw my talent, and I performed with Gora Singh for the Independence Celebration. I did an Indian hand-on. And then after that, in 72, I did the Carrie Festa. I directed, I think, 3 sequences. And I really fully came into my own then, because the effect I had on school children, especially school boys, who were so grateful for what I had done, what I had brought out of them. I don't think that I do. You don't really teach people. You bring people out.
Talk.
I mean, don't impose a talent on somebody. They have it inside of them.
Talking.
Everybody has a talent.
Talking about bringing things out. You mentioned something a moment ago that I want to explore, and that is you didn't realize who you were when you around the time you did the dance for the independence celebration. And again, I have to reference your accomplishments, which I had the privilege to research and see, and you were quite courageous, I must say. You're quite comfortable in your skin. I've seen the litany of parts you've done on stage with Teddy Pendergrass and I think it's Baby Boy or whatever, and a whole list of things that require someone to be bold. At what point in your life did you, because knowing how you were brought up, knowing our culture, at what point in your life did this transformation take place where you just
When
claimed?
I went to Avery Hill College.
Oh.
When I went to Avery Hill College, they just thought I was the most best. And it was really a good experience because I learned to work with a group. Because as a child, I was always wandering around the island in Walkenham, or not the island, but in my grandfather's estate, on my own dreaming, but always on my own. I was always a loner, and I still am. But I learned to work with a group at Avery Hill College when we did dance. And they such a fuss with me. They thought it was excellent. And I was really surprised when I won the first prize in the Festival of Spoken English at Avery Hill College. I didn't think much of myself because I don't think we brought up to think much of. We brought up to, what is the word? Well, we just don't think much of ourselves. We brought up to admire other people.
Yes, yes. And to dim our own lights.
I think most Guyanese were brought up that way.
Yes.
To entertain people from abroad, do the best you can for somebody else, and put yourself last. So
your
problem, but going to Avery Hill brought me out.
I just
when I returned to Guyana, I was given assignments.
Mm-hmm.
I had a responsibility because I was sent abroad to do that, to be trained, and that's when my confidence, I really realized, not fully. I fully realized it when I worked at the Commonwealth Institute, and
Ah,
my programs, my songs and dances were performed at the Royal Festival Hall. And then I went to Farnham Castle for about 5 years, and top policemen, top executives from Europe, they enjoyed my work. And I must say I gained confidence when I became a part-time lecturer, full-time at the Commonwealth Institute, and a part-time lecturer at Farnham Castle.
okay.
That's where I gained confidence. And because of that, I was invited to different museums. I was spotted at Canada House, and the Canadian Indian conductor invited me to the Yukon. And that's how I began to really believe in myself.
Thank
Because
you.
then I got invited to Zimbabwe without applying or anything, you know. You just walk in somewhere, somebody sees you somewhere and says, oh, we want her. And that, of course, is flattering to the people at the Commonwealth Institute. They were very happy to let me go on the convent.
I want to slip into the chat room a bit. Someone by the name of Maggie Kelman Lawrence said, joining you from Guyana, saluting a
Yes,
talented and
Margaret! Hello, darling. I love you.
saluting
She
a
was one of my
talented.
dancers, you know.
Sorry?
Margaret was one of my dancers. I wish you could play that ring game for her, dear.
Oh, really? Well, let me read what she said. Let me finish off what she said. She said, saluting a talented and proud Guyanese. Doris was my creative and performing arts teacher, and she was always a visionary. We were taught to be innovative and fearless. That's what she said.
Thank you, Margaret. And so are you. You are talented as well, indeed. I couldn't do it without people like Margaret and Gail and Peter, my daughter. We performed in the presence of Fidel Castro.
Really?
It was really funny that
Wow.
evening, yes.
You're
A little accident, and those girls were so brilliant. That group, that VHS group, wow.
I'm sure they're listening with pride tonight. And your life's work started in Guyana where employed as a language teacher. You introduced your innovative teaching strategies, dramatizing French and English. Is there anything specific about French you can identify with? And what drew you to dramatize in French, being that Guyana is an English speaking country?
Well, I wasn't drawn to it. I was forced to teach French because it seemed to me I was the only one who, well, I don't know, I had to teach French. And the girls were not really interested in French. And so I had to devise a technique, you know,
Hmm.
strategies to get them interested. The first school I taught French at was Charleston with Sister Gabriel, and I used to draw everything on the board for them to learn. Well, not everything. Say, like I'd start with the head, la tête, le nez, le pied, and that sort of thing, and sing alouette, and so on. And that I realized that singing, then your teaching really worked. Then when I went to Central High School, I took it a bit further, and I used to let them put the books on their head and walk down from the classroom into the garden and say to them, you know, this is going to make you a beautiful model if you could balance the book on your head. And they would learn the past participles, the preceding direct object. Those girls never ever wanted to get a break. They loved it. They loved the way that my method of teaching. It was fun.
Brian,
Years later in Barbados, I was visiting on behalf of the Commonwealth Institute. They sent me on a tour of the Caribbean, my employers did. And I stopped in at Barbados to get a Barbadian policeman's uniform because, you know, they have a very interesting. Have you noticed the Barbadian policeman's uniform? Excellent uniform. I wanted it for my collection. So there was I sitting in a circle, waiting for the police chief to come, and this girl next to me was laughing and giggling. She was a doctor. She said to me, "Miss, don't you remember me? You were a very stern teacher, but we had fun in French."
What attract In the chat room, Brian asked, "What attracted you to teaching?"
What attracted me to teaching?
Yes.
It's in my genes. My father's a headmaster. He taught us at home. And, well, girls in those days, we either did nursing or teaching, or we got married, or both.
Or are you the kind of teacher that will lose patience if you see a student interpreting your choreography their way, or will you encourage them to be creative and explore?
It doesn't mean that I am doing all the steps. Choreography means that you're using the talent of the person, and then you're adapting it, blending it in. Then that child will always like dance because they made a contribution.
Wonderful. I found out you taught quite a few Bishop's High School of Guyana's alumni, and many indicated that they will be tuning in tonight. What did you enjoy most about teaching at Bishop's?
I loved the group that I taught. I taught also English literature. Mm-hmm. And I also remember doing a play called The Toy Shop, which I wrote, of course, because in that play, the toys, instead of break and enter, the toys broke an exit from the glass case, and they broke out because they wanted to belong to the little boys who used to sing, "Sell chronicleography papers, evening post, graphic, da 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 da." You remember? No, you weren't even born, were you?
I was born in 62.
Little children, little boys who sold the chronicle, the argosy, and the graphic in order to help their mom.
I remember that. I remember that. Yeah, I remember the paper boys. I do.
Oh, I didn't know that. That was the newspaper dance, and this was called The Toy Shop, and that group.
You have taught so many people, and judging from what Maggie Kelman Lawrence said, I'm sure there are many who have made you proud. Is there anyone or a group who have, well, let's say, is there any particular one that stands out in your mind that you have taught that really danced, that really took dancing to heart?
That's not fair for the VHS girls. I can't say that to anybody. Because they were all good. They were all good. But Margaret stands out to me because I always see her. She comes, well, she's always there. And according to Napoleon Bonaparte, les absents sont toujours tort. If you're absent, you're wrong. So Margaret is right because she's there to me.
Wonderful.
Another dancer that stands out to me is Philip McClintock. Because I was at the Theatre Guild. We were doing an Ivy Baxter workshop, and we each had to choreograph something, write a script and choreograph it. And because I'm so music and dance, I did something called Pan Papa, the Pied Piper. Mm-hmm. And this Pied Piper led people out from Berbice right through until they went up into the mountains. And I wanted the dancer to be the Pied Piper. Of course, I had my music and song and dance ready. Drove across the Luripans here and saw some young boys playing. And they just liked the car drive, and they jumped into the car, went into the Theatre Guild, and Philip was just excellent. He just got the part immediately, and I forgot all about him because I went abroad after that. I think I went to America for a year or something. When I returned from America after a year, I think you had a big riot. There was some kind of rioting going on in Guyana in the 60s.
Yes.
Yes. So no planes were going there. That's why I stayed away for a year. When I got back, I went to teach at Charlestown Government Secondary with Edgar Wilson. And of course I was teaching French. And this little boy came up to me and says, Miss, don't you remember me? I'm Pan Papa. I'm the Pied Piper. It was Philip. And because he loved dance and because I was his dance teacher, he made sure he got his French 100% in French because he likes his teacher. And he came around and we did more dance, and then he entered his Indian competition for dance and he won. When he performed, people started to laugh at him. I can remember the tune, the music. La da 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 pam pidi 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 pa pa pam pam ding. Wonderful. And you know, everybody was mesmerized. Laughter of scorn turned to admiration. And Philip McClintock won the prize at the East Indian. Is it the East Indian Cricket Ground? It used to be EICG, East Indian Cricket Ground, yes. The East Indian Fair. It's an annual event, I think. And that is how Philip became.
Wonderful. Something I really
Philip McClintock, he stands out for me.
okay. Something I really found refreshing about a clip you sent me is that unique voice of yours, with its Guyanese resonance and Caribbean flavor. I enjoyed it. Is that the song you entered for the CARICOM song competition?
Oh, I entered a song for the CARICOM competition. Two songs, actually. Two good songs. I wrote four. They came out of the back of my head. It's terrible. The older I'm getting, I'm returning to my childhood. Songs are just coming. You know, you seem to return to childhood when you get older. And so I'm writing songs again.
Wonderful.
But I sent that song in. I've never heard a thing about it.
You never heard? Wow. Let's hope you do soon, so that the rest of us can hear about it, because I rather enjoyed it, actually.
Oh, you do? Well, it needs a nice male voice.
I don't. Please don't tap me.
It's a march, isn't it? And CARICOM has many. We are the CARICOM. CARICOM are we. Yes.
That's right.
And it calls all the islands. That's why I thought that.
How has being a mother shaped your artistic work and business?
Being a mother, I don't think I was a regular kind of Guyanese mother, because when I got married, I didn't know how to cook. And my husband taught me to cook.
Wow.
And he likes cooking anyway. I think he really spoiled me, you know. I was his little precious chandelier. It was just stay like a jewel up in, you know, and not go anywhere. And not spoil my hand.
I will
say that about him.
we talk a little bit about him later on in the show. I want to get some.
Being a mother helped me creatively, because I sang lullabies like Kiskadee, Kiskadee.
Oh.
Shoo Kiskadee, Shoo Kiskadee, Shoo. You know, that sort of thing. I sang to Leslie, and I made stories for them as well. But I guess most mothers do that.
Yeah.
You know, yes. How else can a mother be creative? I must confess, I didn't sew clothes. But my mother did sew for us.
Oh, okay.
I did the piano.
I want to ask you two more questions before I take a break. One, did you or do you have a mentor in your artistic process?
A mentor?
Yes, did you have a mentor? Or do you have a mentor?
No, not really. No. For my music, I had music lessons, piano lessons, of course.
Okay.
And then I went to Rose Rupert School of Speech and Drama. Didn't learn much there, but I learned a lot at Rose Rupert that artists swear, and they're terrible.
Well, I'm going to go into the chat room because Gail, I think you taught Gail. Gail said, listening intently to your conversation. My love to you, Doris. Like Margaret, we share fond memories of performing at various venues in Guyana. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is that Avis?
No, this is Gail, not Avis. Gail.
Hello, Gail. Oh, Gail is another darling. She's always there for me. Gail Noon.
Gail Noon.
Oh,
Wow. You remember?
And her brother and Wayne. Oh, I love Wayne and Gail.
Wow.
Oh, Wayne is wonderful. Gail, Wayne is wonderful. Thank you for letting me share him with you. Because Wayne is in London, you know.
How gracious you are, Doris. Let's take a break.
It's lovely. It's lovely.
Okay.
Gail and Margaret and Chauncey.
Chauncey.
Richmond, I think. Yes. And Verna Walter.
Vorn is a wonderful dancer here in New York. Wonderful dancer. Very talented.
She's done extremely. I'm so proud of her.
Oh my gosh. If she's not tuned in tonight, I will pass it on. I will definitely pass it on to her.
I'm so proud of Verna.
So Doris, let's take a quick break.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Arrowhead, I love my golden arrowhead. I don't think you heard me. I said arrowhead.
We are back.
Yes, hello.
Hi, Doris.
Hi.
Were you surprised by the British admiration and recognition of your works and the way they have?
Not really. How did it all happen? Typical Guyanese. We always do things, not asking for money. And the very first year I went to the Commonwealth Institute to work, there was a big festival called London Entertain, a festival of many cultures. And I was asked to contribute an item, and I did a song of the Children of London, and we performed it on the steps of St. Paul's. And Ram John Holder of Guyana as well, you know, you've heard of him, have you? He played the guitar.
Not.
And that was a success. From then on, before you know it, I became the artistic director of London Entertain, and I was managing groups from Brazil, the Philippine Islands, all the States, Muslims, everybody. It's fantastic festival once a year. Eastern Europeans did a fantastic dance with chairs in the moonlight once a year in Trafalgar Square. I have wonderful memories of Great Britain. It's awesome when I show, I was Paula Marshall, that famous writer, a friend of mine from York. She came and I was surprised how much I'd done, how much I had to show her. Starting, because we went to each Commonwealth Club, And there it was, Trafalgar Square, St. Paul's Cathedral Steps, Covent Garden, the Africa Center. I did it all in one day, once a year. It was wonderful.
Um, in Guyana, you attended a Curriculum Methodist School, Trinity Methodist School, and Bishop's High School, and all the different schools in England. How much did education play in your career?
Education has played a lot in my career, especially education from the foundation that I got at Trinity with Mr. Morrison, even though he used to stick out a wild cane and beat. Oh my word.
Is that so?
Yes, but he produced very many brilliant people. He was Fred's headmaster as well. Leo Owen, lots of people. I think Sonny Rambo as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Mr. Morrison, we were really grounded there. From there we went to Bishop's High School. I think that was a very good school. Bishop's High School.
I agree.
I am not ashamed of being a BHS old colonial girl because I think we had very good values.
Mm-hmm.
Very proud of it. It's nice to dot your I's and cross your T's.
as a mother.
Your voice is lovely, Selwyn.
My voice? Thank you.
Guyanese voice. I don't hear enough of Guyanese voices in London.
Thank you very much. As a mother, with all brilliant and accomplished children, Freddie, now deceased, a formidable cricketer and avid chess player, who once beat the then Guyana's President Forbes Burnham. Leslie, the award-winning textile designer, Peter, a teacher and gifted dancer. Lee, an American attorney. Then there's your granddaughter, the young composer. So much talent and accomplishments in one family. Not unusual, but will make any parent proud. What does that mean to you as a mother and grandmother that they are all successful and some have even followed in your footsteps?
I'm very proud of the achievements of my daughters, but I still give them a hard time.
You do?
Yes. Typical. It's like the parent who says if you get 9.5, why didn't you get 10?
Wow.
We take each other for granted. They give me a hard time too.
Well, they say fair exchange is no robbery.
Pardon?
They say fair exchange is no robbery.
No, it's good to be like that because then life isn't boring.
Yes.
Why should you sit around and think, I won this last year. That was last year. This is this year.
I like that. Well, I want to ask you this. For someone
and there's so many people better than us who are doing better.
That is true. For someone so creative and warm as you are, how would you describe romantic love?
Romantic love?
Yes. Romantic love. How would you describe it? I'm curious.
Listen, I know what you're getting at. You're getting at the way how we quoted, how Fred and I quoted. We did Virgil, and we did Greek, and we did sonnets and Rupert Brooke and that sort of thing. That's romantic love. It's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Writing letters and having sitting room dialogue with the parents, playing the piano, Chopin. I played Chopin, he clapped, and that's romantic love.
Well, let me.
Maybe romantic love is different nowadays, isn't it?
Well, I guess I'll take your word for it from your time and my understanding of it in my time. But
my heart goes free, soon begins to in me. It's that old devil's moon. That's the sort of love we had, eh?
Well, now that we're talking about love,
I tell you a secret.
Now that we are talking about love, let me do this. You were married to the Guyana scholar and brilliant son of the soil, Fred Wills. You are brilliant, gifted, and pretty. you would have been suited by many. Why him? And what is it about him that appealed to you as a young, beautiful Guyanese woman?
I'm telling you, Guyanese women in my time did not consider themselves beautiful. We were not brought up to believe we were beautiful. We were brought up to do certain things.
Uh-huh.
Play the piano, get to grade 6 or grade 8, and whatnot. Nobody tells you you're beautiful. You know that.
Okay, well let me try this because I want to get this out of you. Let me try it another way. If you knew then, if you were told then that you were beautiful and you were aware how pretty you were, why him? Would you still have chosen him?
I didn't choose him. He chose me.
Okay.
And society chose us. They put us together because the moment my brother introduced me to Fred Wills at the QC ball, everybody else fell away.
Oh. Is
That's the way it,
is that so?
that's the way it was. Everybody else fell away. Yes, that was it. Except for one person I remember. I don't know where he is.
Oh.
Quite interesting, yeah. But to be quite honest, at that age, girls are quite passive. They're really not interested in anything, but not really.
Okay.
Not like the girls of today. Girls were quite happy being at home, helping to polish the floor and rub down the furniture, and then sit down and play the piano. Around 4 o'clock you have another class, and then you go you play the piano. And of course, when my tutor came, he discussed politics with my mother.
Ah.
That's the way it was.
So he had he had the love of mom and dad, I guess.
My father loved him because he was bright. Because in those days, if you are bright, you're someone highly respected.
Yes.
It's not like that nowadays, is it?
Well, that's true. That is true. Children, especially in America, young children are ostracized by their friends for being too bright.
Exactly.
Which I find rather ridiculous. Well,
like this in England too, they get killed here for being bright.
Oh my gosh.
Or they kill themselves.
I want to read a quote to you. You belong to the stream of lovely things that have outlived the death of history. Can you tell us if you recognize those words and who's...
Yes, but I can't. And don't... The history behind that, oh, goodness me. That was a whole book of poetry that Fred wrote.
A whole book?
A whole book, and a standpipe fight occurred over it. Do you remember those standpipes?
Yes, the standpipe, yes, I do.
Somebody wrote a beautiful story about a standpipe. Well, a girl stole the book at Bishop, took it back home or somewhere and read it across the stand. It's very complicated, but I know I got a detention for it, the headmistress.
Why?
I can't remember why. I think I just didn't like being talked about in that way.
Oh.
Being accused.
Oh.
I was a very private person.
Well,
when you're young, you're very private. As you get older, then you can speak openly about these things. I'm speaking about it now because I'm older. Is it the fear of death that makes you speak openly when you're older?
I understand. With two very accomplished and brilliant minds, how did you manage to stay grounded when you were in the same space, the two of you?
With Fred?
Yes.
We were never... we stayed grounded when we were in London because we were poor as students. We didn't have a choice. But he went off and played cricket with the boys.
Mm-hmm.
And I just loved being with my babies. But in Guyana, he was off to the club.
Oh.
That's how it is in Guyana. You come home from work, you change. It's like that in London with some of my friends as well. They go off and play golf, don't they? So you go off and you play cricket. And I go off and I do either poetry with a group or... Yes, secretary of International Pen Club. Do you remember that pen club?
Yes.
International Pen. A.J. Seymour was in it, Frank Thomason. And one year, Evelyn Waugh came down to Guyana, and he refused to see anybody else. He refused to see the pen club, but he only saw A.U.C. Kiwana. Have you heard of, you know A.U.C. Kiwana, don't you?
No, I can't.
Sidney King.
Oh, U.C. Kiwana. Yes.
Yes. Evelyn Waugh, the great writer. Mm-hmm. He really was only interested in seeing Sidney King.
Wow.
I found that very interesting. And then there was Stephen Spender, the great poet. He came down to Guyana. And then there was Sylvia, she was married to Jan Carew, Sylvia Winter. That's how I spent my time, being secretary of the International Pen Club. And dreaming, of course, writing poems, playing the piano, composing. I was quite contented that way. I think it's a very good thing when people who are married have separate interests.
You know,
and then they meet for dinner.
And you saying that, I have one more point I want to make in question. Because I had a conversation today with someone who I hold in very high esteem, who, you know, was a member of the government back then. And I want to say this, Fred Will is a man of stature, you know, and I grew up hearing of his brilliance. My friends and other members of the diaspora speak of him with reverence. Only this morning, someone who I respect said to me that we may not have known or who or what we had, and as such, may not have utilized his gifts to their fullest. What are your thoughts on that?
I didn't hear you quite clearly.
Sorry, I will repeat it. I will repeat the last part. Someone said to me this morning about Fred Wills, and she said, this guy was so brilliant, so gifted and talented. We may not, as Guyanese, may not have known who or what we had, and as such, we may not have utilized his gifts to their fullest. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think Fred's gifts were underutilized?
It's hard for me because I'm on the inside. I'm not on the outside. I think, in my opinion, he was a very good performer. Mm-hmm. People don't know that side of him. He played the piano, he sang, his jokes were, he's very good. He's a very good comedian. I could only see that side of him, and I could see him as a father, and I could see him, I'll never forget him as a husband, because of course he separated.
Right.
You know? But now in retrospect, because I'm doing this program, I thought about it, and when I compare him to people of today, when I think of the amount of sacrifice he has made when he worked in South Africa and assisted South Africans on behalf of the President of Guyana and the Guyanese, he has made a tremendous contribution, a very, very great contribution towards South African political situation.
Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that with us.
And also, he is a great philanthropist. I know he has helped many, many people.
Wow. You know, I was going to ask you.
Almost like a doctor who does things for other people and forgets to do things for the family.
Wow. Wow.
And for himself, yes.
Wow. What a man. Well, I want to go back to you, Doris. This is important. As a teacher, you taught at St. Joseph's High School, St. Rose's High School, Central High School, Charleston Government Secondary, Bishop's High School, North Georgetown Secondary. Was there any common thread among the students of those schools?
They were Guyanese.
I like that. I like
right?
that.
What stands out with Charleston Government Secondary is that the headmaster was Edgar Wilson.
Uh-huh.
And that school stands out for me because I used to, everybody stayed after school, extracurricular activities. There was no grudge. We didn't resent doing it. It was family. I think Henry Muto went to that school, and he's now in the Cayman Islands, doing very well. Oh yes, that was a great school, great people.
Charleston.
I've seen a rumble at that school. I've seen two girls fight to the waist, their school clothes down to the waist.
Is that so?
Yes, yes. Human beings, not very good home situations.
Yeah.
But school produce talent.
Before I ask the next question.
Henry Motu. Yes.
Before I ask the next question, I want to go to the chat room. Gail responded with thank you, thank you. And Patrick said, good evening to you, Selwyn, and your beautiful guest.
Hello, Patrick. Thank you, but I don't know which Patrick this is.
Oh, I don't think you will know Patrick. You probably may not know him. Mike, the guest, okay. the audience is international, so Patrick could be anyone. You taught diverse subjects, including French, illustrations, English, drama, literature, and dance. What did you enjoy teaching the most?
French.
French, le français.
I love teaching French.
Wow. What is it about teaching that?
It's a joy to see people who used to spell Jusuis, Tuiles, to hear them say je suis, tu es, tu et il est, elle est, stop. It's nice to see them rattle off. In fact, I distinctly remember Clive Lloyd's sister. I can't remember. Was it Leela? I can't remember. But she played the part of the Souris in Le Lion et le Rat. She played that part, and I could never forget her. It was excellent. Mm-hmm. You see, because everything I teach, I dramatize. And if you dramatize something, people learn the language. Because they don't think they're learning a language.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
How come they copy all sorts of things in songs? And so naturally they were rattling off the language because they liked the part.
What is it about teaching that give you satisfaction?
I love it.
Ah.
Love it. I've inherited my father's love for teaching, and what gives me satisfaction is to see a child who some teachers describe as hopeless or no good. I'm a catalyst, unmoving others and as yet unmoved. That's what a catalyst is. It's nice to move children, move people. And sometimes I feel a bit sad though, because not jealous, but Philip did get to India, and he did get more recognition than I did. And that makes me proud.
Good. Wonderful.
Every time Philip performs at the National Theatre or whatever you call your center at home, his program is dedicated to his first dance teacher, Doris Harper-Wills, and he plays one of my compositions, Awake Guyana. And that's lovely. That is my role in life. I accept it. I'm a teacher.
Wonderful. And how did you adapt your particular teaching style?
How did I adapt it?
Yes. I mean, you have a particular teaching style. You dramatize stuff. How did that come about?
I don't know. That's my inner guide.
Wonderful.
I just do it. It started, I don't know why I did it. I did it at Charleston Government Secondary first. No, it was a secondary, it was Charleston. It was St. Joseph High School, Convent of Mercy. And those girls, all they wanted to do was to get married. They wasn't interested in French. So I found it boring. It would be boring. So I did drawing.
Oh.
Something in me, something inside of me. The gift. It's a gift. That's what it is.
The BBC Radio, storyteller, Radio 4 schools broadcast, Little Red Fish, Radio Borlin as a singer. Why do you believe you are so often cast in these productions? Why did they choose you?
I have no idea. Little Red Fish is a lovely story. It's how the first mermaid came to the Caribbean. And it was told to me in two sentences by a girl from Guadeloupe who, like most Guyanese, have no respect for their own, don't think much of their own culture and their own stories. You know, she was almost ashamed of it. She was actually ashamed to tell me about this little girl who went down to the river and used to flirt with a fish, and then eventually the fish became a man and that sort of thing. And I think I got the break because I was working at the Commonwealth Institute, and that's a highly recognized institution. You know, it's the Queen's Commonwealth. You know, from the Commonwealth Institute, I did a television program called The Queen's Heritage.
Mm-hmm.
So naturally, I had a lot of status there. So the BBC naturally would turn to me to ask for a story. And then I gave them Little Red Fish for Water Magic. It took off, and it has been published. But I have yet to do it in my own way. In my next series, which is African deities, because I know I'm not supposed to advertise, but I've got my book here called Amerindian Legends, because you know I like to do, what shall I say, not airy fairy things, but because my book on legends is really about the history.
You know, we must be connected, because I was going to say I want to talk a little bit about your, but go ahead, since you preempted. Go ahead, show it.
Yes, well, the next book is going to be African deities, and Little Red Fish will be featuring on the page. Can I show you my book?
Of course, by all means.
Oh, this is my daughter Leslie with all her lovely textile design.
Lift it up a little bit more. Lift it up.
She has been inspired.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
She was influenced by her. This is where Fred comes in, because from living in Zambia, when dad was ambassador there, he was inspired by African animals and these textiles. This is the center page of Cosmopolitan magazine. Yes.
Oh, that's your daughter's Leslie's work.
My daughter's textiles, yes.
Wow.
All the animals from Bella animals, and this is the influence of Africa, of her stay in Africa. I'm very proud of her. Her work also has been used, her book designs, and the next book will be Leslie's cover design. Now, this is the book I have written.
Can you hold it up? Can you hold it up a little? Yes, a lovely cover, by the way. I want to ask you who did the illustrations.
The illustrator is from America, but the illustrator for my second book would be Leslie Wills' illustrations from her exhibition.
Okay.
That has done in London and Sweden.
Let's talk a little bit about that book, the wings of Ire.
The wings of Airi. Airi is the Amerindian word for hummingbird, and the hummingbird is the only bird in the world that can fly backwards.
That's it. Keep it right there. That lovely. I fell in love with that cover when I saw it for the first time yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, you can get it online, but I'd rather you bought it from me, Selwyn, and friends and family. I had a lovely book party, and I would like to buy this book. This book is for your grandchildren.
What inspired this endeavor, though?
This book is really documenting all the stories I have told in Zimbabwe, Canada, Zambia, Brazil. I'm just documenting the stories I have told.
Okay.
Before
we continue, because time is upon us, I want to. Wow.
Map showing the arrival of the Amerindians, where they came from.
Wow.
Because see, I was in the exhibition galleries of the Commonwealth Institute for 10 years.
Wow.
you know, heralding the Amerindians. And that's why I thought I should do this. You know,
Excellent.
time is going, and this is the bird that inspired the story. This
Hold
bird,
it up a little bit. Hold it up some more.
this bird is a design, a carnival bird by Leslie Wills. This bird inspired the book. I am informed by my daughters and my granddaughter. They
What?
inform me, Selwyn.
Wonderful.
Now learning again from them. And that is the cycle, isn't it?
How wealthy, how
We'll
very
learn.
wealthy you are. How very wealthy you are. I am
And
in the chat room.
This is the dancer. She performed with me during Carrie Festa.
What is her name?
This is Peter.
Peter. Okay.
This is her house. I'm speaking to you from her house. And she performed with me during Carrie Festa. In the film, in the Carrie Festa film, you can see her performing. She performed in Trafalgar Fair. She performs everywhere with me. She is the dancer.
Thank you. I want to go to the chat room and read some comments. Valen said she's absolutely fantastic. I am so happy I made a call to Leah, and by the way, it reminded me I lived in Agricola as a kid. And then Valen said again, I am ready to buy the book. So you see, we are touching, we are connecting and interconnecting one big family tonight. And I want to ask you this. This statement was made by Yukon Arts Canada. She's one of the most memorable tellers to have performed under our tents. Why do you think they acknowledge you that way?
The Amerindian stories, and they believe that the Amerindians are their lost tribes because the Amerindians started from across the Bering Strait into into Canada, hunted the buffalo and the Huron, and then my story is that the teenagers got fed up. They don't want to stay at home, and they just traveled until they came down to South America.
Oh.
So they were so fascinated about my stories about their lost tribes. Because they lost some tribes, and those lost tribes are our Amerindians.
Oh,
It's
that's
a wonderful world.
that's a wonderful story. It's a wonderful world indeed.
It's a wonderful world. And do you know, some people at that festival were 100 years old.
Ouch.
And still teaching dance.
Ow. You know, among your past publications and
Why
recordings.
should you go home if you're 100? You might as well stay awake.
Sorry?
What's the point of going home if you're 100? You might as well stay awake.
I agree. And Doris, among your past publications and recordings, such as Villanelle, I hope I'm pronouncing it correct. You're a French teacher.
Villanelle, yes.
Villanelle, Old Haig and Young Saman, Legend of Old Haig, Little Red Fish, Song of the Beantos, and Mosquito One, to name a few. What are you most proud of?
I like Little Red Fish.
Okay.
I like Little Red Fish, yes.
Because
I love that story.
Mhm.
It's amazing. Do you know I've had 2 proposals from one English, one American because of Little Red Fish?
Oh no, I didn't.
They like that story, yes.
Wow.
Because all grown-ups have children in them and fantasy. And Little Red Fish is a story about a prince who wooed a girl in the form of a fish.
Oh.
So all men would like to become a little fish and woo somebody. If they're shy, maybe, I don't know. But I like Little Red Fish. It's a nice story. I love it. Fantasy, but reality. Because in my second book, Little Red Fish and the girl that he woos into the river, she's a poor girl and she was a hard-working woman. And it's nice to know that a hard-working woman could get a lovely husband.
Yes.
Because he turned out to be a prince from Africa. And both her and the husband have still go around in Cuba, in Haiti, in Brazil, educating our children and teaching them to respect their past.
Oh, I
As
love.
Martha Starr says, if you do not know your roots and your past, how can you have a future?
Talking about past, in 2005, recognizing your pioneering role in interpretive dance in Guyana, the Guyana Cultural Association honored you with the Wordsworth McAndrew Lifetime Achievement Award. With all your other awards, how important was that to you?
I really, that was fantastic. It was really a wonderful experience to go to America and meet my Guyanese sisters and brothers and to be recognized by them. Oh, it was, I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional, but
Wow.
one of the most important moments of my life.
Wow.
It was wonderful.
Wow.
Isn't it wonderful to be recognized by your own people?
Yes, that is true. That is very true.
It is wonderful that you have recognized me and invited me here tonight.
Talking about Leah, I have a number here I would like to share with the audience before we continue. That through which they can reach you. It is 888-524-9776. I will repeat. 888.
Number is this.
A number Leah gave to me that the audience can reach you if they want to. Are you?
Oh.
Yes. It's 888-524-9776. I hope this is not much of a surprise to you.
Oh, they can reach me tonight.
She said after the show. So, seeing that it is morning there already, I will not encourage them to try and call you now.
I think that's my. Is that your iPhone, Keisha? I think that's my grandchild's iPhone.
Really? Anyway,
And you can call if you like.
why not?
I'm not going to sleep.
But let me ask you this: do you listen to music when you're engaged in your creative work?
Oh yes.
And what type of music you like to
I
listen
have
to?
a radio in every room.
Oh, nice.
One room is classical because it reminds me of childhood. And I have to have glimpses of my brother playing because he played lots of Chopin and Mozart. And I have to have that going on in that room while I'm working.
And
On top of that, when I go downstairs, I've got to have another radio going with contemporary music because I like to be in touch.
I like that. You've got
Right?
so much going on, Doris. How do you manage everything?
I don't know. I think I rattle. I think some people think that I have too much energy.
That's good. That's a good thing.
I just don't have energy. You're
That's
supposed to have energy anyway.
yes, that's a good thing. You know,
Yes, old age is a myth.
I agree. Overrated,
I'm not a-
overemphasized. People like you must demystify it, right?
There's lots of people like me around.
I know.
They hide.
Who are some artists you admire?
You mean poets or
Yes, let's say poets. Yes,
artists?
poets.
I do like Martin Carter, but
Mhm.
he's no longer there, but I do like Martin Carter. And I like a fellow called Juan Liscano from Venezuela. I like Pablo Neruda. And contemporary poets, not much really, I'm afraid.
I say.
I don't dislike them, but I like Dr. Seuss, believe it or not, because Dr. Seuss has transformed children that are supposed to be, what is the word for them? Not up to scratch.
Uh-huh.
In school. I taught Dr. Seuss to a girl who was not supposed to be able to learn, and I think the teachers were annoyed because she memorized it.
Oh. Wow.
Right? Dr. Seuss is great.
What do you do when you want to de-stress?
when I want to.
De-stress.
What do I do when I want to distress? Nothing.
That's
Lie in my bed and look up at the trees in the sky and watch squirrels jumping from one end of the sky. Because I live in the woods.
I like that. I like that. Do
And
you have any? Do you
if
have
I
any?
want to distress, I turn everything off. Because I like the sound of silence.
So do I. So do I. I love silence. Do you have any hobbies?
What's my hobby? I like going to the theater, going to shows. I like going out with my granddaughter
Mm-hmm.
to the Royal Festival Hall and to the Jubilee Garden, tasting food. My hobby is going out with my granddaughter and my daughter.
Wonderful.
We're lovely. We're the three musketeers.
I like
Or
that. The three musketeers.
We're the three musketeers because my granddaughter mothers me, and I like that. She looks up for what's good for me, and we go there. She even takes me to clubs so I can win prizes,
That's
dance
beautiful.
prizes, so she can get the prizes.
That's beautiful. What would you like to be remembered? For what would you like to be remembered?
To be remembered,
Yes.
I'd like to be remembered for my book. The ones that are not published yet, because I think I have good stories to tell, and I think my stories
Please tell them. Tell
learned
them.
by people. People should know them. It's a pity we don't know our own stories. I want to be remembered as someone who brought to the attention of Guyanese and the Caribbean at large the beauty
Mm-hmm.
of their own culture.
When
I'm remembered for that.
when you think of yourself as a Guyanese, when you think of yourself, what do you remember most about growing up in Guyana? What sticks with you?
Oh, I remember the wonderful sunset slipping into the Atlantic Ocean. Oh, I've never seen anything like that. The beautiful sea walls, we all got dressed and paraded on bicycles and wooed each other. It's all gone now. They don't do that anymore, I guess. I remember the 6 o'clock bee.
Yes.
And do you know the 6 o'clock bee?
Yes, of course.
Oh, it's in my poem. It's here. I can hear it now. I went to Grenada and I think I heard it, but it's better in Guyana. I can remember the smell of Diamond Estate.
Ah.
Remember the smell of Diamond Estate?
Yes, I do remember that, of course.
Oh, I can remember that. And the sound of a Guyanese voice. Oh,
What is it about our voice? What is it about our voice that resonates with you?
no, we different. We have. I love the sound of a Guyanese voice. It's
Wow.
lovely. We're lovely people.
Wow. Thank
Yeah.
you. And
I love the way how what is it? Kosher. We just know how to get around people.
yes.
We are a charming people.
Yes.
Clever.
I want to thank you so
Special.
Huh?
You're special.
I special indeed. I want to thank you so much for taking us on that particular journey to remind us of the kind of people we are. I think that is important, especially for our youths who might have in some way lose some of that because I guess stories like yours are not being told to the young ones today, and I want to thank you for that. But before we go, there's a question I ask each guest. What makes you laugh out loud?
We laugh out loud. Oh dear. Well, at the moment, I can tell you at the moment what makes me laugh out loud.
Yes, go ahead.
Watching a certain TV program makes me laugh out loud.
What is that? I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Watching a certain TV program makes me laugh out loud.
Oh, yes?
I don't like laughing at people.
Okay.
I like laughing with people.
Wonderful. And can you take us out with a few words of wisdom, please?
Occasions for happiness never recur. If you wish to be happy, do what you prefer.
I like that. I like that. And you know, Doris, I have to say, it took getting used to calling you Doris. But I probably will hear about that tomorrow from my mom or someone. But I want to say thank you for all your contributions. You are a living queen in the palace of our rich history. I am glad I met you and was allowed to have this conversation this evening. You staying up to share with us your journey gives me reason to pause in acknowledgement, respect, and honor of a woman with such grace and regality. A queen, I say. A queen. Thank you, Doris Harper-Wills.
Thank you, Selwyn. Thank you, family and friends. Thank you, life. Thank you.
You are welcome.
My Guyanese sisters and brothers. Beautiful voices.
Thank you. Good night. Well, good morning where you are.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Suffer the little children to come unto me. Every day, more than 30,000 children around the world die of preventable diseases. More than 300,000 children are being used in war as child soldiers. Lord have mercy. A child should be loved. A child should be held. A child should be clean. A child shouldn't smell. A child shouldn't go to bed hungry at night. A child should be taught wrong from right. A child should learn to say thanks and please. A child shouldn't suffer from preventable disease. A child is a fruit that shouldn't be picked before it's time to do